As we move along together on this spiritual journey, with each step, we will discover a more subtle, yet more powerful force than the one before. Energy is more powerful than matter. Emotions are more powerful than energy, and thoughts are more powerful than emotions. Just by changing your thoughts, you can change your emotions, which affects your energy, and ultimately your physical body. It works like a chain reaction. We are getting closer and closer to reality. We learned that physical matter is actually not physical at all because it consists of energy. Emotions are different forms of energy, and they are not yours. You only perceive them. And now we will learn that you can change all of the above just with your thoughts. At this level, mind is the ultimate reality. Let's see how it works in its essence. Its main function is to help your survival. Every thought ultimately leads back to this main goal. So everything that is beyond the level of survival is beyond the mind, too. Certainly, the mind is useful for helping you survive, but in all the other things in life, it is not only useless, but stands in your way as well. In life, you can either be in survival mode or spiritual mode. Survival means mind. Spiritual means beyond the mind or no mind. When you are preoccupied with your survival, your mind is filled with thoughts, worry, and tension. Only when you relax into your being can you really start to appreciate the meaningful things in life like beauty, wisdom, and life itself. There are two ways to go beyond the struggle for survival. First, you can create a balanced and abundant life for yourself, where your financial, relational, sexual, and recreational situations are in harmony. You will soon become bored with your perfect life and will ask yourself, and now what? You will want to search for something beyond survival. Second, you can learn to accept death completely, and with this understand that ultimately the fight for survival is futile because you can never win in the end. Remembering and accepting this, you will automatically move into the higher dimensions of life and start to function from the spiritual mode. You will want to search for something beyond death. However, it is impossible to move beyond something that you don't know and understand. Therefore, in this module of the Rebirth Academy, you will learn about your thoughts, your mind, and your ego. This is the last barrier that stands in your way, that divides you from your real self. The mind is inherently dualistic because it is trying to decide about everything, whether it helps or hinders your survival. It divides the world into black and white, good and bad. This is how it labels and judges everything. If it thinks it helps your survival, it says good. If it thinks something is in the way or is even dangerous, it says bad. If something is neutral from the point of view of your survival, it says, I don't care. You usually don't even notice the neutral things in your life. You don't give importance to them. Your mind is only interested in the good and bad things. That is why you enjoy a good meal. You get afraid of a car almost hitting you, but usually you don't even notice a tree in your garden. So, the mind is constantly seeking pleasure and trying to avoid pain. All of your thoughts are ultimately leading back to this motive. The mind keeps on labeling everyone and everything, which distorts your reality. It connects bad thoughts with negative emotions and good thoughts with positive ones. So, simply by changing or completely removing these labels, you can change your reality. Thinking lets us choose between beneficial and hindering situations, communicate more efficiently, create a blueprint of the whole world in our mind, create inventions by manipulating this virtual world, and even predict the future based on the past. Thinking let us rise above the animal kingdom, yet it is way overvalued. Thinking also distorts reality and puts us in our own personal reality, which is often a personal hell. Our limiting beliefs based on the past constrain our possibilities. Mostly, we only react to situations instead of giving a responsible answer based on the present moment. Until thinking is mostly unconscious, there is little possibility to change it. Why do we cling to the mind then so much? Because we cling to our own survival. This is the most basic function programmed deep into the subconscious of the human psyche. Animals use various tools for survival, like their claws, jaws, or their hiding abilities. But for humans, the Swiss Army knife of survival is the mind, and even if we don't think about this consciously, deep down we know it. The essence of the next exercise is to make you more conscious of your thinking. Notice every time how the mind is labeling things or people, how it is trying to prepare for the future by imagining certain possible events and finding the best possible answers by trying out different scenarios, how it is trying to solve problems by imagining various solutions and creating a story in your mind. Don't judge the mind. The main point of the exercise is exactly to avoid judging. When you judge the mind, you judge it with the mind itself. There is nothing else in your being that can make judgments. Instead of creating a vicious circle, break it with the power of acceptance. You can see that the mind is only trying to help you. It works for your own good. But it has overpowered you. It became too important in your life, and now you think that only the mind exists, and you couldn't live without it. It became an over-caring mother who made her child too dependent and unable to live on its own. Perhaps you don't even realize that there is someone behind your thoughts. By simply watching the mind in action without any judgments, labels, and comments, you may glimpse behind it. You can only rise beyond something that you understand. By understanding and experiencing the nature of the mind, you may discover your real self. You can finally meet the inner child that you already forgot about. You can finally realize that you are not your thoughts. Thoughts simply appear and disappear in your consciousness, but they don't belong to you. Did you realize that most of your thoughts are not really yours? They were simply given to you. If you take a certain piece of information and analyze its source, you will find out that it always comes from outside. Even if you don't remember the original source, it is always so. Some beliefs come from your parents, some facts from your teachers, while some other information you heard in the news. The amount of information you received from others is close to infinite. Your mind is full of information you accepted without questioning its reality. Most of the content of the mind is borrowed garbage. Even if they want good for you, your parents, your teachers, and the whole society wants you to live in a certain way. All your ambitions, all your goals and dreams are really their ambitions, goals and dreams. But they programmed your mind so deeply that you think you are living your own life, when in fact, you are living a life that they want you to live. You have to realize that you are living a borrowed life. You have to start doubting your own mind, because all the information it is based on is doubtful itself. Did you analyze and experience everything for yourself? Or did you just simply accept the so-called facts as facts? No, we are too lazy for that. It is much simpler to accept the information as it is, without any doubt. The mind needs information to function, and the more input it gets, the more data it collects, the better decisions it can make. However, if the data is incorrect in the first place, its decisions will also be wrong. The mind is not a given thing, it is created. The mind is a collection of thoughts. It is an accumulation. It doesn't exist on its own. Can you imagine a mind without any thoughts? No, it is impossible. When your mind is emptied from all the thoughts, you experience a state of no mind. Some call it meditation. Others refer to it as emptiness or void. One important goal of all kinds of spiritual methods is to reach this state. The next method I show you will make it possible to empty your mind by deleting your thoughts one by one. How can you delete your thoughts? Refute them, deny them, reveal their illusory nature. Think about the following for a second. Does any thought have any substance, any reality outside of your own mind? Can you really prove any of your thoughts? No, because any proof is also just in your mind. You cannot be 100% certain in anything because you are bound to apply circular logic in every case. Your mental world is entirely subjective. You cannot give your thoughts to someone else. Just like you cannot share a dream, you cannot share your mind with others. Only reality can be shared, only something which is objective. Your mind is just your personal interpretation of the world around you and not the world itself. Realize the difference between a chair and the thought of a chair. When you look at a chair, you internalize it. It becomes part of your mental world. You define it, you give it a name, a function, and a shape, and hold it inside your memory. The virtual chair is inside now, but the real one is still outside. You can do anything with your mental chair, but you can sit only on the real one. You internalized every single piece of information in your life and created a virtual world in your head. By the time you grow up, you are filled with names, concepts, labels, evaluations, and interpretations. When you look at something for the very first time, your look is still innocent. Your mind is still open, and your eyes are full of curiosity and excitement. But when you look at the same thing again, your eyes become dull, and your mind becomes closed. Your mind already internalized it, labeled it, and judged it. You subconsciously think that you already know it because it is part of your virtual world. It is not so interesting anymore. Your attention quickly slips over it. This is how everything in your life, your home, your job, your partner, slowly become boring and repetitious. This is how you are numbing yourself to life and becoming dead inside. When you look at a rose, do you see a label on it saying rose or saying beautiful? A rose is just a rose, nothing more and nothing less. Whenever you simply watch the rose without thoughts, you are in contact with reality. But as soon as you start thinking about it, you lose contact with the essence of the rose. In this exercise, whenever a thought comes up, refute it. Realize that it is just a thought and not real. Deny all your thoughts as they appear after each other one by one. You may soon catch yourself in a whirlwind of thoughts, traveling deep down into the core of your being. You may soon, sometimes even suddenly, get into a thoughtless state of mind. Your center, your real self, is like an infinitely deep well. You are constantly pulled downwards, but you keep fighting against it. A sort of spiritual gravity is pulling you inwards, but you are making every effort to climb out. Thinking means moving outwards, because then your attention is focused on the world outside. You are thinking about this and that, but never realize the one who is thinking. You pay attention to the outside world, but forget about yourself inside. Sometimes, when your mind is too tired to think, you are thrown back to your center. The same thing happens during deep sleep, but you remain unconscious. A meditative state means returning to your center while remaining conscious. The goal of the next exercise is to throw you back to your center by gaining back part of this lost attention, moving outwards and turning it inside. The goal is to take back the control from your mind that almost forces you into these repetitious and automatic patterns. The first step is to realize this process and notice it in the first place. And this is where this practice can prove to be very useful. The essence of this exercise is to constantly verbalize what you are doing. Become a commentator of your own life as if you were the main actor and the storyteller in a novel at the same time. Remind yourself again and again of yourself. When you are reading, say in yourself, I am reading. While walking, constantly remind yourself that you are walking. While eating, repeat in your mind over and over that you are eating right now. Through every activity, be it even as passive as lying in your bed, make mental comments. The emphasis should be on the fact that you are doing it, that you are the doer. It doesn't just happen by itself, it happens through you, and you are aware of it. It may sound stupid first, but this is one of the most effective techniques in the entire academy. It is one of the easiest ways to make yourself conscious of yourself. Just don't mix it up with being self-conscious, because then you will miss the point. When you are self-conscious, you are actually thinking about what others think about you. But when you are conscious of yourself, you simply remember yourself. By and by, your attention will slowly turn inwards, towards your center. Functioning unconsciously means that your unconscious programs are controlling you, and you don't know about yourself. Just like in a computer, several programs are running inside you, sometimes at the same time. These are either inherent or acquired programs. Inherent ones are stronger and deeper, like the fight for survival and procreation. The programs you acquire first are the emotional and behavioral patterns inherited from your parents. The patterns coming from your friends, teachers, priests, idols, and the rest of society are added to these later. You slowly learn what needs to be or should be done in various situations in life. You slowly learn which behaviors bring good and which bring bad results. You presuppose that if a pattern was successful in the past, it would also be useful in the future. You install these programs onto the hard disk of your mind. Your mind tries to prepare an action plan for every possible scenario. However, every case is different. All events are unique. Even if a certain situation is very similar to a previous one, the time will always be different. And time changes everything. As all events are unique, they require unique responses. But you are trying to force the same behavior that worked once in the past. A certain memory triggers a certain automatic reaction, and you act unconsciously. You don't think over the situation, you don't weigh the possibilities, and you don't analyze the circumstances. In fact, this kind of behavior is also just another program meant to help your survival. The more automatic your thinking becomes, the less you have to actually think, and the more efficient you can be. By learning from past experiences and applying this knowledge in the future, you can avoid bad outcomes and reach good ones easier. At least this is what this program suggests, but it is a two-edged sword. If you chose a dysfunctional response in the past just once, it could easily become an automatic dysfunctional reaction to every similar triggering event in the future. For example, you may have successfully changed somebody's behavior by becoming angry. Your mind now evaluates this behavior as effective, even though it is dysfunctional. Instead of trying to find better alternatives to cooperate with others, your subconscious will always choose anger just because it worked once. So, this pattern that comes from laziness makes you narrow-minded and unable to change. Your mind simply wanted you to become more effective, and it doesn't even realize that it made you less so. This whole process is unconscious, and until it stays so, it cannot be changed. This is why you become angry every time others don't do what you want them to do in this example. This is why you seem to lose control and feel like you are almost a different person. You are controlled by your programs, while your real self is asleep. The brain is like a computer, and while most of its structure is the same, everyone is wired differently. Different brain cells attach to each other in different ways in every brain, and thus create a totally unique network. Thus, the same event can trigger different reactions from different people, based on the differences in the brain cell connections. If you become more conscious, you can learn to modify these connections, which will cause a change not only in your thinking pattern, but a real physical change in your brain structure as well. For example, with the help of hypnosis, you can learn to dissociate the sight of a spider, the triggering event, from the feeling of fear, the unconscious reaction. You can rewire your brain through constant conditioning and reinforcing, the same way it was wired in the first place. Until you are not conscious, you are just a machine defined by its programs. These programs define your personality, your goals, your reactions, your behavior, your fears and desires, and everything you say, do, or even think. If you don't just want to remain a machine, but a totally conscious human being, the machine inside you has to awaken to self-awareness. This doesn't mean that you have to think something new about yourself or become somebody else. The rise of self-awareness means realizing that you are not equal to your programs, but the one running them. You are the one sitting in front of the computer and controlling it. You are the one completely free to start, stop, rewrite, or delete any program. What is more, you can even switch off the whole computer and stop the functioning of the mind. You are the one in control. You have to separate yourself from these programs, create a certain distance from them to be able to discover yourself. So far, you have identified yourself with these patterns and gave them too much energy. They stole your attention. They hypnotized you into a deep trance until you completely forgot about yourself. You made yourself into a robot, and others helped you too. When you were still young, innocent, and defenseless, they uploaded these programs into your mind and made you a puppet to them. Now only you can reclaim your freedom and become innocent again. If you continue to live according to your programs, you remain completely predictable. Self-awareness requires a totally new kind of living based on spontaneity. If your programs continue to control you, nothing new can enter your life. But life is about constant renewal, and even survival requires continuous adaptation. Forget your programs, forget the past, and forget even your own labels about yourself. Don't react, respond. The meaning of reaction is in the name. You repeat an action. If your life is full of reactions, it will be repetitious and boring. When you react, you don't feel responsible for your actions, but you still feel guilty afterwards. But when you respond, you give a certain response to a certain situation. You would be considered stupid if you replied every question with the same answer, wouldn't you? But you are doing it anyway unconsciously. The only way to be really responsible is to respond instead of react.